So, I know that this movie was not made for me. So, let's get into it.
I'm sorry. You can't change the way things are. Watch me.
Get ready.
You ready for what now?
Okay, so this past weekend, at the time of this recording, The Electric State was released on Netflix, and I watched it. And I'll lead off with this. It wasn't a terrible movie, but it was a forgettable movie, or more or less a movie I don't know if I'll ever watch again unless I have kids. Because this definitely was a kids movie, and the general premise is in an alternate 1994, after a war with the machines, this girl who thought her entire family was dead, she gets word that her brother might still be alive, and so she goes on this trip to try and find her brother, and there's this huge conspiracy that unravels as she's going along the movie. I won't spoil too much of the movie, even though the trailer probably spoils a lot more than I just did. And so that's kind of the general premise. She meets Chris Pratt, and he kind of plays a typical character you expect him to play. And with a movie like this, it's one of those films that delves into the whole human versus AI debate. Okay, I mean, they've been making these movies for years, ever since the 80s, and for the longest period of time, it was all, AI ultimately evil, humans ultimately good, and then it shifted to humans are pure evil and AI is holier than angels, pure, perfect in every way. They never make any mistakes. They're just pure good all the time. And that's kind of all we've been getting with these films lately. You look at The Creator. This is no exception. I mean, that's kind of the mindset of this movie, apart from a few human characters. All humans are evil and all AI is pure good in every sense of the word. And honestly, I've kind of been looking for a movie that kind of is less black and white and more of a gray area type of movie, where machines have a valid argument, humans have a valid argument, and you kind of don't know who to root for. We haven't really seen a movie like that yet, and I think not only would that be an interesting conversation to have, it would also be a very entertaining movie. Kind of the closest we got was I, Robot with Will Smith, which I think is an underrated film, but I kind of got a sense in that movie, but typically it's either robots pure evil or robots pure goodness, more pure than Jesus in some movies, it feels like. And I will be comparing The Electric State with The Creator, because there's a lot of things worth comparing in those two films, just because they're both about human versus AI. And in The Creator, at the beginning of that film, I kind of got the feeling that we might actually be getting that gray movie that I was wanting, because the beginning kind of felt like there were valid arguments for both sides, until it's just oh, actually, robots were good all the time, the entire time, they were never bad. It's oh, gosh. And so it just feels like lazy writing when you get a story like that. And so at least with The Creator, it felt like it was starting off as a gray movie. With Electric State, right off the bat, it's very obvious that, oh yeah, the robots are the good guys, the humans are the bad guys. And even though they were trying to play it off like the humans were actually good, it was very obvious, like, okay, obviously the humans are the bad guys. It's just so blatantly on the nose. I mean, it just kind of felt super obvious. But, like, the other thing worth talking about this movie is the Electric State had a budget of $320 million, which is insane. After watching the movie, it felt like it had a budget of $110 million. Like, and it felt like some of the locations were chosen to cut down on the budget. You then look at the movie The Creator. That was a movie built on an $80 million budget, and yet it felt like it was a $500 million movie. A movie that only cost $80 million felt like it was infinitely more expensive to make than this movie, which actually was more expensive to make. I don't know what the hell they spent the money on, but, like, clearly The Creator feels like a far more superior film than Electric State in just a technical sense. From the locations to the CGI. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that the CGI in Electric State was amazing. I really did not care for much of the CGI. I thought the CGI in The Creator was by miles superior in terms of just realism and quality. And so, I mean, is the CGI fine in this film? Yeah, it is, but I felt it wasn't as amazing as a lot of people on YouTube have been saying that it is. And, like, never once in The Electric State was I blown away by the CGI like I was in The Creator. There's just a couple of scenes in The Creator I was just like, how did they do that? And, like, I mean, Electric State at times felt like a cartoon, which I think it was intentionally trying to do, because the main target demographic of this film, I believe, is kids. I don't think this movie was made for me, an adult, and I kind of feel like I can't hold the movie against it because it wasn't aimed towards me. It was definitely aimed at kids. It's like SpongeBob SquarePants, you know, isn't made for me. I mean, it's a happy accident that I still enjoy SpongeBob SquarePants, but it was never made for a full-grown adult. It was made for kids. And, like, this movie definitely felt like it was made for kids. I mean, no doubt, no question. And, like, one of the reasons why I felt it was made for kids is kind of the robot designs. Like, 90% of the robot designs are very juvenile, childistic, silly, cartoonish, and I didn't like them. I kind of liked the human designed robots, which technically they all would have been, but like the human designed robots designed to take out the actual artificially intelligent robots in this movie, I kind of like those better. And there are these scenes in the movie where they're trying to be serious and like have a serious message in this scene, but they literally have the leader robot of the AI artificially intelligent robots, Mr. Peanut. And so when Mr. Peanut comes on the screen and tries giving this rousing speech about freedom and equality, I can't take it seriously because it's Mr. Peanut. Okay? It's so ridiculously silly and stupid. And, like, you have, like, this huge battle where the AI robots are going up against human-designed robots that are remote controlled by humans designed to destroy AI robots. And these AI robots that, like, were designed for, like, mail service and hairdressing and, like, baseball recreation are kicking the ass out of them. How? What changed? Don't ask questions like that or you lose control of the entire narrative. The time era doesn't really work for this because there's never anything explaining why we would have such advanced robotics in the 90s. If you lived at any point in the 90s, you know that technology was very limited, and we still have like that limited technology shown in the movie, and yet we have these super advanced robots. I mean, 40 megabytes of data was considered a lot back in the 90s. In order for these robots to work, you need terabytes of data. That was unheard of in the 90s. So, like, just the more you think about it, the more this world falls apart. Now, I will say, this movie does feel like Steven Spielberg had his mitts all over this, and when I watched the credits, it's like, oh, I half expected to see this movie produced or directed by Steven Spielberg, and it wasn't. It was, it just felt like Steven Spielberg. But you know what I'm talking about with that, like, that sterilized feel with a lot of his, like, futuristic type movies. Even, like, his, grimy futures still have, like, a sterilized feel to it. I don't know if it's, like, the camera filter he uses or something, but I'm getting besides myself. Now, one point I really did like, it's silly, it's stupid, it's barely in the movie, but seeing a robot drive up on a motorcycle is, like, one of the coolest things I've seen this year. I wish that was in the movie more. But, like, I think ultimately one of the biggest issues that I can't forgive with it was aimed at children, is a lot of the character arcs feel incomplete. The main villain is one-dimensional. There was a little bit of a hint that he might have gone more than one dimension, but he's just your typical, stereotypical, typical bad guy. Yeah, I know I said typical 3 times. But, like, I mean, Chris Pratt, he felt like he could have had an interesting story arc, but they did a tell instead of a show. And you really should show instead of telling. And it's just like, oh yeah, this happened to him. It's like, I think it would have been better to have seen that. And, like, I thought his arc had more potential of an interesting movie than Millie Bobby Brown's, because, like, her entire focal point was on her brother. She didn't really feel like there was anything more to her other than she was obsessed over her brother. And, like, if you removed her brother from the equation, she would have had nothing to do. And I understand he was the core crutch of the story, but, like, she didn't feel like she had any personality outside of she loved her brother. And so I could have used a lot more work on her character. She did a fine enough job. I thought her speech at the end was kind of hokey, but, you know, at that point, you kind of know the movie you're in. And so, like, the best story arc I saw, and I'm going to slaughter his first name, but Giancarlo Esposito, I apologize, I'm not trying to be insulting, I'm just terrible enunciating certain names. You know him from Mandalorian, Breaking Bad. You know, he does good work, and he does a good job in this, and I kind of felt like his story arc was the most satisfying of all the story arcs in the movie, but he doesn't get a lot of screen time, and so it's like, honestly, with a better writer, this probably could have been an amazing movie. It just wasn't, and, like, ultimately in the end, this is an okay movie. I didn't find it particularly impressive. I didn't think it was a terrible film, but it's definitely aimed more at kids, and so if you don't have kids, this probably isn't worth watching for yourself. I mean, just because this is aimed at kids, and it's not aimed at people like me. And so, yeah, with that being said, I mean, if you got nothing else to do on a Saturday night, sure, I guess you could check it out, but ultimately, I probably don't ever need to see this again. So anyway, that's been my review of The Electric State. What did you guys think? Say off in the comments down below. And please remember to do the liking and the subscribing and the galaving and the whatnot. And my name's Christopher Conn, 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all for today.